When you think about what makes a football club truly successful, what comes to mind? Star players, right? A genius manager? Maybe a massive war chest for transfers? Well, what if I told you the most important asset might actually be the ground they play on? We're about to dive into a huge question that's shaping the future of Europe's biggest clubs. Who really owns the stadium? So let's just cut right to the chase. Does owning that giant piece of real estate, the stadium, actually translate into more trophies in the cabinet and more money in the bank? That is the billion-euro question we're looking at today. And the answer, it's surprisingly straightforward. An emphatic yes. The data shows that owning your stadium isn't just some nice little perk. It is a massive, game-changing competitive advantage. There's a straight line between holding the keys to the front gate and performing better both on and off the pitch. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Look at the evidence. A study looking at 17 publicly listed clubs across Europe found this really stark dividing line. On one side, you've got the high flyers, clubs like Juventus, Sporting, Porto, and what do they have in common? They all own their stadiums. On the other side, clubs like Lazio and Roma, who are basically renters. The pattern here, it's just impossible to ignore. So why is this whole ownership thing such a hot topic right now? Well, to get that, we need to take a hard look at the stadiums themselves. And honestly, for a lot of Europe, they're basically falling apart.
Get your head around this number for a second. 9 out of every 10 stadiums in Europe are over 30 years old. These aren't just old buildings. We're talking about relics from a totally different era of football, and pretty much all of them are crying out for a major, expensive overhaul.
So what does that actually mean for the clubs and the fans? Well, it means creaky, outdated infrastructure, a pretty poor experience when you go to a match, and, this is the big one, it puts a huge ceiling on how much money a club can actually make. These old grounds are becoming a massive financial liability, struggling to meet modern regulations and costing an absolute fortune just to keep the lights on. And all this brings us to the real heart of the issue, the ownership models. So, who actually holds the keys to these massive, multi-million-dollar assets? Let's break it down. Now this is where it gets really surprising. You'd think most big clubs would own their own ground, right? Wrong. It's actually the exception, not the rule. Fewer than 20% of European clubs own their home turf. The vast majority, over 80%, are renting from the city or are tangled up in these complex hybrid deals. And this right here, this chart really spells out the power dynamic perfectly. If you're an owner, you are in complete control. You call the shots on upgrades, you pocket all the matchday revenue, and you can make decisions fast. But what if you're a renter? Well, then you're at the mercy of your landlord. That means slow decisions, having to share profits, and a future that you can't really control. Okay, so let's talk about the payoff. How does having all that control actually translate into a real, tangible advantage on the ground? It lets clubs master something experts call revenue architecture. Now, that might sound a bit technical, but the concept is key. A stadium isn't just a pitch. It's a finely tuned money-making machine. And every single part of it, from the tickets you buy, to the corporate boxes, to the sponsorships you see, is designed to generate cash. And the owners, they get to design that whole machine from the ground up. So when you own the building, you control that entire revenue architecture, and the payoff is just huge. You keep every cent that comes in, you can adapt to new rules in a snap, you can plan for the next 10, 20 years with confidence, and you can turn your stadium into a concert venue on a Tuesday night if you want to, bringing in totally new streams of income. And this quote from the research just hits the nail on the head. Ownership is all about direct command. It's the difference between being a passenger on a bus and being in the driver's seat, steering your club exactly where you want it to go. So where is all this heading? What does the stadium of tomorrow, the one that this ownership model makes possible, actually look like? Well, the modern stadium is a total reinvention of the whole idea. Seriously, it's not just a place for a 90-minute game anymore. It's a 365-day-a-year entertainment destination. We're talking hotels and shopping centers built right in, retractable roofs, super fast Wi-Fi for everyone, and the flexibility to host a Champions League final one night and a massive rock concert the next. It is a non-stop business. And that brings us to our final thought. As the stadium morphs from a weekend venue into a year-round business, the question really changes, doesn't it? Is owning your ground no longer just a nice strategic advantage, but an absolute necessity for any club that wants to survive and compete at the very top of European football? Something to think about.